It is 10:53 p.m. Al Udeid Air Base sits 11 kilometers southwest of Doha on a patch of Qatari desert that the United States Air Force has been operating from since 2001, and that has become over 22 years of continuous presence, one of the most consequential pieces of real estate in American power projection. The base's runways handle more than 150 aircraft movements per day under normal conditions. Under the conditions of the past 17 days, Operation Epic Fury's sustained air campaign against Iranian military infrastructure, the tempo has been considerably higher. The F-15Es, B-52s, and tanker aircraft that have been supporting the campaign depart from these runways and return to them at a rate that the logistics and maintenance staffs track in flight hours and fuel consumption and component replacement cycles that have been running for 17 days without pause. The intelligence picture at 10:53 p.m. is not comfortable. The daily threat assessment delivered to the base commander at 6 p.m. had rated the probability of an Iranian ballistic missile strike against Al Udeid within the 72-hour window as 63%, up from 41% the previous day, driven by a combination of signals intelligence indicating Iranian strategic planning activity and the observed reconstitution of mobile ballistic missile launcher units in western Iran that the air campaign had not yet reached. 63% is not a number that initiates evacuation protocols. It is a number that initiates heightened readiness, sheltering procedures for non-essential personnel, and the positioning of every available missile defense asset into its optimal defensive geometry. The THAAD battery assigned to Al Udeid's defense has been at continuous high readiness for 12 days. The Patriot batteries operating in coordination have been cycling their radar systems at a rate that the maintenance teams are managing carefully, because radar systems that operate continuously degrade faster than systems that cycle, and a radar system that degrades at the wrong moment in a ballistic missile engagement is a system that is not defending anything. The defensive architecture is sound. It has been designed and positioned by people who have studied Iranian ballistic missile trajectories against this specific target set for years. It is also, like every defensive architecture, finite. It has a capacity. The Iranian planners know the capacity. They have been designing around it. At 10:53 p.m., the SPY-1D radar aboard the USS Guided Missile Destroyer holding station in the Persian Gulf, 43 nautical miles northeast of Al Udeid, detects the first launch. The contact climbs out of western Iran on a ballistic trajectory that the fire control computer resolves in 6 seconds. Fateh 313 class. Range to Al Udeid, 1,340 kilometers. Time of flight, approximately 11 minutes. The destroyer's TAO initiates the attack warning transmission at 10:53:41 a.m., a broadcast on the theater missile defense net that reaches Al Udeid's command post, the THAAD battery, the Patriot fire control centers, and 5th Fleet simultaneously. The transmission takes 4 seconds to complete. The base has 11 minutes. Then the second launch appears, and the third, and the fourth. By 10:54:30 p.m., there are 9 distinct ballistic tracks in the upper tactical picture, all climbing out of the same Western Iranian launch complex, staggered by intervals of 15 to 40 seconds. The staggering is deliberate. It is designed to arrive at the target not as a simultaneous salvo that the defense can engage in a coordinated single sequence, but as a rolling sequence of threats arriving over a 6-minute window, forcing the defense to engage the first threats while the later threats are still inbound, forcing the radar systems to maintain track quality on multiple simultaneous inbound while cycling solutions against targets already inside the terminal engagement zone. The 10th launch appears at 10:55 and 11 seconds p.m. It is different. The trajectory is flatter. The speed is higher. The fire control computer's threat library identifies the signature in 9 seconds. A FATA-2 hypersonic glide vehicle, a platform that does not follow a standard ballistic arc, but transitions at high altitude into a gliding flight profile that allows it to maneuver during terminal descent, that reduces the predictability of its impact point, and that presents a fundamentally different intercept problem than the 9 Fateh rounds that are already in flight. The THAAD battery at Al Udeid does not have a clean intercept solution against a maneuvering hypersonic glide vehicle at the current phase of its flight. The THAAD is designed for endo-atmospheric terminal intercept. The glide vehicle is currently in the exo-atmospheric phase of its trajectory. The window for a clean THAAD engagement opens in approximately 4 minutes. 4 minutes is a very specific duration when the vehicle is moving at the speed it is moving. The destroyer transmits the hypersonic contact classification to the Theater Missile Defense Net at 10:55:23 p.m. The THAAD battery commander receives it. The Patriot battery commanders receive it. The Al Udeid command post receives it. Everyone in the defense architecture now knows what is coming and knows that the 10th contact requires a different solution than the 9 that preceded it, and that the window for that solution is time-constrained in ways the standard ballistic engagement is not. At 10:56 p.m., the base commander initiates shelter-in-place for all non-essential personnel and issues the evacuation order for Category 1 assets, the classified material, the mission-critical personnel, and the 18 non-combat support staff who are on the pre-designated maritime evacuation list. The list exists because Al Udeid's proximity to the Persian Gulf coast provides a maritime evacuation route that is faster and more survivable under certain threat conditions than a ground convoy through Doha. The route runs northeast to the Qatari coast, 11 kilometers, and then to the destroyer's assigned pickup position, 8 nautical miles offshore. The commanding officer of the destroyer receives the evacuation activation at 10:56:17 p.m. He has been expecting this. The destroyers assigned to theater missile defense support have been briefed on the maritime evacuation protocol since day 1 of the campaign. He orders the RHIB crews to launch stations and simultaneously continues managing the tactical picture that is, at this moment, 9 ballistic tracks and 1 hypersonic glide vehicle inbound and the THAAD and Patriot batteries running solutions against the ballistic layer, while the destroyer's own fire control system builds solutions against every contact in the picture. The destroyer carries SM-3 Block 2A rounds in its forward VLS cells. The SM-3 is not the primary asset against the Al Udeid ballistic layer, that is the THAAD's role. But the destroyer's position in the Persian Gulf provides an engagement geometry against the inbound tracks that complements the THAAD's terminal intercept with a mid-course layer. The TAO initiates SM-3 engagement solutions against the 4 tracks whose intercept geometry falls within the destroyer's optimal engagement arc at 10:56:44 p.m. The first SM-3 fires at 10:57 and 2 seconds p.m. The deck plates of the destroyer transmit the launch through every surface the crew is standing on. The missile climbs into the dark sky above the Gulf, and the thermal camera tracks it upward until it transitions out of the camera's field of view. The second SM-3 fires 11 seconds later. The third. The fourth. 4 rounds against 4 of the 9 Fateh tracks, the engagement distributed to maximize coverage while the THAAD addresses the remaining 5 in the terminal phase. At Al Udeid, the base is not quiet. It is the specific kind of not quiet that a military installation produces under attack warning conditions, not panic, not disorder, but the controlled noise of established procedures being executed at speed. The shelters are filling. The aircraft that cannot be flown out in the available time are being positioned in hardened facilities. The evacuation convoy, 3 vehicles carrying the Category 1 personnel and material, departs the base at 10:57:30 p.m. on the 11-kilometer route to the coast. The convoy has police escort and is moving at maximum authorized speed through a Qatari suburban corridor that was not designed for emergency military convoys, but that has been pre-cleared through coordination with the Qatari government for exactly this contingency. The Qatari government knew this day might come. They have been hosting American forces for 22 years. They have been watching Operation Epic Fury for 17 days. The pre-coordination that allows an American military evacuation convoy to move through Doha's outskirts at 11 p.m. without interference reflects a relationship that was built in peacetime and is being spent tonight. At 10:58 p.m., the first SM-3 intercept occurs at altitude. The kill vehicle finds the first Fateh track in the mid-course phase, well above the atmosphere, in the silence and cold of space where the detonation produces no sound and no pressure wave, only a white flash on the thermal cameras and a debris field that the SPY-1D tracks as it begins its own inert descent. The second SM-3 intercepts 40 seconds later. 2 Fateh tracks have been removed from the picture. 7 remain, plus the hypersonic glide vehicle. The third SM-3 misses. The miss is attributable to a fire control solution that was built on track data that was slightly degraded by the density of simultaneous tracks the SPY-1D is managing. The solution was within the normal confidence interval. The kill vehicle passed within the lethal radius of the target, but did not achieve a fuse solution. The Fateh track continues inbound. The THAAD will have a terminal intercept opportunity on it. The miss is logged. The TAO calls the miss to the CIC in a voice that does not add to the report anything the report does not require. The fourth SM-3 intercepts its target cleanly. At 10:59 p.m., the THAAD radar at Al Udeid achieves its terminal intercept solutions on the 5 Fateh tracks assigned to it. The THAAD launchers fire in a sequence coordinated to avoid the debris corridors of prior engagements. The first THAAD intercept is clean. The second is clean. The third intercepts a Fateh round at an altitude of 40 kilometers, the lowest in the engagement sequence, the one that was furthest into its terminal descent, the one that was closest to the base when the intercept occurred. The detonation at 40 kilometers produces a fragmentation pattern that the post-engagement analysis will assess as posing a nominal re-entry hazard to an area north of the base. The assessment will be correct. The hazard will not produce casualties. The base is in shelter. The fourth THAAD intercept is the Fateh track that the SM-3 missed. The THAAD finds it at 38 kilometers. The intercept is clean. The fifth assigned track presents an anomaly at 10:59:44 p.m. The track's descent profile changes, a minor deviation from the expected ballistic arc that the radar processor flags as inconsistent with pure ballistic flight. The deviation is small. It could be atmospheric. It could be terminal guidance activation. The THAAD battery commander makes a decision in 4 seconds and fires 2 interceptors rather than 1, accepting the expenditure of an additional round against the possibility that the deviation indicates active terminal maneuvering. The 2 THAAD interceptors find the track at 36 kilometers. The double engagement is confirmed as correct by the post-engagement analysis. The Fateh round was carrying a submunition dispenser with a simple altitude-triggered guidance correction, not hypersonic, not sophisticated, but enough deviation from a pure ballistic profile that a single interceptor firing solution would have carried a reduced probability of intercept. The battery commander's 4-second decision to fire 2 rounds was the right call. It will appear in the after-action review as an example of commander's judgment appropriately exercised under time pressure. 8 of 9 Fateh tracks have been intercepted. 1 remains. The 9th track is the one in the THAAD's engagement sequence that fell in the coverage seam between the destroyer's SM-3 geometry and the THAAD's optimal terminal intercept zone, the track whose approach angle placed it at the edge of both systems' rated envelopes. The Patriot battery has been tracking it. The Patriot fires at 11 o'clock 11 p.m. The PAC-3 interceptor climbs and finds the target at 22 kilometers. The intercept is confirmed. All 9 Fateh tracks have been removed from the tactical picture. The hypersonic glide vehicle is at 11 o'clock 19 p.m., entering the THAAD's engagement window. The glide vehicle has been maneuvering during its descent, not dramatically, not with the agility of a combat aircraft, but with the lateral offset capability of a platform that has been designed to defeat intercept solutions built on predicted impact points. The THAAD's fire control radar has been tracking it for 4 minutes and 40 seconds and has been building a solution that accounts for the observed maneuver history and projects a terminal impact point with a confidence interval that is wider than it would be for a standard ballistic track. Wider confidence interval means less precise intercept solution. Less precise intercept solution means the engagement is being conducted at the outer edge of the system's rated performance. The THAAD fires 2 interceptors at 11 o'clock 24 p.m. The first interceptor's kill vehicle guides on the last observed position in the projected maneuver envelope and finds the glide vehicle at 31 kilometers. The intercept is not clean. The fuse triggers at the edge of the lethal radius rather than the center, and the fragmentation pattern achieves a mobility kill rather than a structural kill. The glide vehicle loses its guidance capability. It continues descending on a ballistic trajectory from 31 kilometers, carrying its warhead on a path that the post-engagement analysis will calculate as impacting approximately 4.2 kilometers northeast of Al Udeid's main runway in an unpopulated desert area. The second THAAD interceptor, fired 0.6 seconds after the first, finds the glide vehicle at 28 kilometers, now ballistic, now without guidance, its reduced maneuver capability making it a cleaner target than it was 4 seconds ago. The structural intercept is confirmed at 11:41 p.m. The glide vehicle is destroyed at altitude. Its fragments follow a descent path that scatters across a desert area east of the base perimeter. No ordnance reaches Al Udeid. The runways are intact. The aircraft in hardened facilities are undamaged. The personnel in shelters are uninjured. At 11:02 p.m., the evacuation convoy reaches the Qatari coast. The RHIB from the destroyer is already in the water, launched at 10:57 p.m., running the 8 nautical miles to the pickup position at maximum speed, arriving at the shoreline at 11:01:44 p.m. The RHIB crew beaches the boat at a pre-designated point on the Qatari coast, a location that was selected for its accessibility, its distance from civilian infrastructure, and its geometry relative to the destroyer's position. The convoy vehicles stop. The Category 1 personnel and material load into the RHIB. The handoff takes 4 minutes and 17 seconds. The RHIB pushes off at 11:06 and 11 seconds p.m. The destroyer recovers the RHIB at 11:14 p.m. 18 personnel aboard. Classified material secured. The recovery is conducted with the ship at modified general quarters, the defensive watch still at high readiness because the engagement's threat period has not been formally closed and because professional discipline means you do not reduce your defensive posture because one attack has been completed. You reduce it when the threat assessment authorizes the reduction. At 11:17 p.m., the Al Udeid base commander transmits the all-clear for shelter in place. The shelters begin releasing personnel. The Base Operations Center initiates a damage assessment that will confirm by 11:44 p.m. that no ordnance impacted within the base perimeter. The closest fragment impact from the THAAD intercept debris field is logged at 2.3 kilometers north of the northern fence line. The base is intact. The runways are intact. The first aircraft of the next sortie cycle is cleared for flight operations at 12:19 a.m., 63 minutes after the attack warning was transmitted. 63 minutes. The campaign does not pause for 63 minutes. 63 minutes is the interval between the last aircraft departing before the attack warning and the first aircraft taking off after the all-clear. It is the cost of the attack in operational tempo, not in infrastructure, not in personnel, but in the time the campaign spent defending rather than striking. The Iranian planners will assess this cost and determine whether it achieved the disruption they sought. The answer is that it achieved 63 minutes. The answer is that 63 minutes is not the campaign and is not the base and is not the runways that are still operational and the aircraft that are already launching again. The destroyer recovers to its standard patrol position at 11:21 p.m. The SM-3 expenditure, 4 rounds, 2 intercepts confirmed, 1 miss, 1 unnecessary given the THAAD's coverage, is logged and transmitted to the Logistics Coordination Network for replenishment scheduling. The THAAD battery has expended 7 interceptors. The Patriot battery has expended 1 PAC-3. The total intercept inventory cost of tonight's engagement across all systems is a number that the Theater Missile Defense Staff will track, alongside the operational output it protected. The 18 evacuated personnel will return to Al Udeid by ground convoy in the morning. The classified material they carried is secured aboard the destroyer and will transfer back to the base through the same coordination channel that authorized the evacuation. The evacuation protocol worked. The 4 minutes and 17 seconds at the Qatari shoreline in the dark, with the RHIB crew holding their boat steady in the Gulf swell and the convoy personnel loading as fast as the material could be handled, worked. It worked because it was planned. It worked because the coordination with Qatar was in place. It worked because the destroyer's crew understood that their mission tonight was not only to put rounds in the air, but to have a boat in the water at the right place at the right time with the right crew aboard it. 9 Fateh ballistic missiles, 1 hypersonic glide vehicle, 10 interceptors expended, 2 THAAD interceptors against the hypersonic contact, 0 ordnance reaching the base perimeter, 63 minutes of operational disruption, 18 personnel and mission-critical materials safely aboard the destroyer. The air campaign resumed at 12:19 a.m. The Iranian planners designed an attack intended to close Al-Udeid for longer than 63 minutes. They designed it with 10 weapons, and they spent those weapons against a defense that had been positioned and trained and maintained for exactly this threat. The defense held. The base held. The campaign holds. What keeps a runway open under fire is not the runway. It is the layered architecture of people and systems that stand between the threat and the concrete, and the discipline to keep that architecture coherent under the specific pressure of 10 inbound tracks at 10:53 p.m. Tonight, the architecture held every layer. The THAAD, the Patriot, the SM-3 from a destroyer 43 miles offshore, the RHIB crew on a dark beach at 11:01 p.m., the Qatari government that cleared the convoy route. Every layer, because none of them is sufficient alone.